She was fine this morning. How could something happen this afternoon in the emergency room? The doctor was pulling a white sheet over my face. Oblivious, Mom pushed open my hospital room door. Chloe, Mom brought the money. The white sheet slipped over my face, stiff and cold, smothering the last faint glow of my vision. The steady hollow beep of the flatlined heart monitor drilled into the silence of the emergency room, and death knell that echoed off the sterile white walls. Nurses turned away, their shoulders shaking. The attending physician ripped off his gloves and hurled them into the trash, his face contorted with rage and grief. We did everything we could, he muttered more to himself than to the empty room. Hospital policy, no payment, no surgery. She never stood a chance. I didn't feel the cold of the sheet or the ache in my chest anymore. There was only a weightless,
Flutim, or hazy fog,
where I could still hear the chaos unfolding. Beyond the emergency room doors, my brother Carson screams, my dad's broken sobs, and my mom's sharp, unyielding voice, still justifying her choices, as if nothing had changed. I was dead, 16. My life had ended not from the malignant heart tumor that had gnawed at my organs for months, but from a mother who'd weaponized my dying breath to teach lesson after petty lesson. The $5 million had slipped through our fingers first, then the $3 million bonus, delayed by her insistence. On cash, by her grudge, over a forgotten anniversary, by a middle school exam mistake from 6 years prior, all of it for nothing. Medical bills remained unpaid. My surgery unperformed, my body now a corpse on a gurney. The emergency room doors burst open. Mom stormed in, clutching a bulky black duffel bag slung over one shoulder, her PhD diploma pin glinting on her blazer. Once a symbol of pride, now a mockery. Her hair was messy, strands sticking to her sweaty forehead, and her eyes scanned the room, wildly missing the white sheet. At first, Chloe, I've got the money right here, she shouted, holding the bag aloft like a trophy. $3 million in cash.
no risky transfers, no scams.
I told you I'd fix it. Now get the doctors in here to operate. This lesson's over. Time to get my baby better. Carson was the first to lunge at her. He was a college junior, tall and broad-shouldered, but he crumpled to his knees beside the gurney, his hands clawing at the white sheet. She's gone, he choked out, his voice raw and broken. Chloe's dead. Mom dead. Because you had to teach me a lesson about carelessness. Because Dad forgot your birthday for one night. Because you thought cash was safer than a wire transfer. That would have hit the hospital account in 10 minutes. He looked up at her, his eyes bloodshot, filled with a hatred I'd never seen in him before. You killed her with your stupid, endless lessons. You killed your own daughter. Mom's smile dropped. Duffel bag slipped from her hand, hitting the linoleum with a heavy thud that sent loose bills spilling out across the floor. Hundreds, 50s, 20s, a mountain of green that meant nothing now. She stared at the sheet, then at Carson, then at the doctor, her mathematical genius brain struggling to process the words dead. She repeated, as if testing the sound of it, as if it were a foreign language she couldn't parse. That's impossible. The doctor said she was stable this morning. She was talking to me on the video call 10 minutes ago. She can't be dead. This is a joke, right? One of your pranks to get back at me for the game show. She stepped forward, reaching for the sheet, her hand trembling. Chloe,
Stop this.
this isn't funny. I have the money now. Wake up. Dad stumbled in behind her, his face ashen, his shirt torn from the frantic drive from the studio. He didn't yell. He didn't scream. He just walked to the gurney, laid a hand on the sheet over my chest, and broke down. Completely silent, heaving sobs that shook his entire body. He'd worked 3 back-to-back night shifts, delivering food to pay for my meds, memorized the game show question bank for 12 hours a day, for 3 months, begged on national television for Mom to give the right answer. And now his little girl was gone. Mom flinched at his silence, at Carson's unblinking rage. I didn't mean for this to happen, she said, her voice rising defensive again. It was a lesson, Sean. A wake-up call for Carson. For you. No one ever listens to me unless it's a matter of life or death. I thought she'd hold on a little longer. With her condition, they're resilient. The doctors overreacted. This is their fault for not waiting for the cash. This is the hospital's fault. Their stupid policy. Shut up. The words were low, cold coming from Carson. He stood up slowly, towering over Mom, his hands clenched into fists. Just shut your mouth, Mom. No more lessons. No more excuses. Chloe's dead, and it's your fault. You had one job, one simple job. Answer 2 easy questions correctly. 1 + 1 is equal to 2. Your birthday is January 8th, th. That's it. That's all it would have taken to save her life. And you chose to throw it all away for a grudge. For a lesson no one asked for. He gestured at the spilled cash on the floor. This money is worthless now. You can't buy her back. Can't teach a dead girl a lesson. Mom staggered back, hitting the wall behind her. For the first time since the game show started, she looked small, fragile. The math PhD, who'd solved complex equations in her sleep, who'd never backed down from an argument, who'd controlled every moment of our lives. With her lessons was finally lost, her eyes filled with tears. Real tears, not the performative ones she'd shed on stage. And she reached for Dad, for Carson, for anyone. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't know. I thought she'd be okay. I thought we had more time." Dad pulled away from her touch, as if she were burning. "You knew exactly what the stakes were," he said, his voice hoarse. "We talked about it every night.
We prayed about it.
You held her hand in the hospital and told her you'd save her. You lied to her. Lily. You looked your dying daughter in the eye and lied." The doctor stepped forward, his expression grim. "I need you all to leave the emergency room, so we can prepare the body. The coroner will be here shortly, and the hospital will be sending a bill for the emergency care, provided unpaid. Of course." He paused, glancing at Mom, his disdain barely concealed. "Miss Smith, your daughter's last words before she coded were a request. She wanted you to witness the organ removal process. We have the signed donation agreement right here." He held up a piece of paper, my shaky signature scrawled at the bottom. Mom's face drained of all color. "What?" she gasped. "Organ donation. Witness the removal." Chloe wouldn't. She couldn't have asked that. "She did," the nurse said, quietly stepping forward. "She was lucid, alert, and fully competent when she signed. She said, and I quote, 'Mom loves teaching people lessons. Today I'll teach her one, too.'" The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Mom's knees buckled, and she would have fallen if Carson hadn't stepped aside, letting her drop to the floor. She stared at the donation agreement, then at the white sheet covering my body, and a sound escaped her, a half-sob, half-well. That was nothing like the confident, sharp voice she'd used on the game show. It was the sound of a woman breaking outside the hospital. The world had exploded. Game show live stream had gone viral within minutes, racking up hundreds of millions of views. News outlets cut into regular programming, looping the clip of Mom answering 1 + 1 is equal to 3, then 1 + 1 is equal to 1, then lying about her birthday. Headlines blared. Math PhD deliberately loses life-saving prize money for dying daughter. Mother's petty lessons kill teen on national television. Family's desperate game show bid ends in tragedy. Social media was a firestorm. Strangers mourning me, celebrities condemning Mom, pundits debating mental health and maternal cruelty. A GoFundMe for my funeral expenses raised over $1 million in an hour. But it was too late. Nothing could bring me back. In the hospital chapel, Dad sat alone, staring at a photo of me from last summer before the tumor, grinning, holding a soccer ball, my hair blowing in the wind. Carson was in the waiting room fielding calls from reporters, his voice flat and emotionless. He blocked Mom's number, already deleted her from his contacts. He never wanted to speak to her again. Mom was in the empty hospital room I called home for 3 months. The one with the 4-stand, the faded curtains, the sticky notes on the wall from my friends. She picked up my stuffed rabbit, the one I'd had since I was a baby, and held it to her chest, sobbing. She ran her fingers over my hospital bracelet. My name scrolled in black marker. Chloe Smith, DOB 0/4/19/2010, malignant cardiac tumor. She opened the drawer of my nightstand and found my journal, the one I'd hidden under my socks. Curiosity got the better of her, as it always did. She flipped it open. The entry started the day I was diagnosed 6 months ago. Fear, sadness, hope scrolled in messy handwriting, sometimes dotted with teardrops. I wrote about the chemo, the pain, the way my hair fell out. I wrote about Carson bringing me college hoodies, Dad sneaking me chocolate chip cookies when the nurses weren't looking. And I wrote about her. Mom came to visit today.
She didn't ask how I felt.
She told me I needed to be strong. That weakness was a lesson I shouldn't learn. She said if I studied hard enough, I could beat the tumor like solving a math problem. I wish she'd just told me. The game show audition is tomorrow. Mom's making Carson and Dad quiz each other until midnight. She says we can't afford mistakes. I told her I'm scared I'll die before we win. She said I was being dramatic, that I needed to focus on the lesson of perseverance.
I heard Mom talking to Dad last night.
She said Carson's carelessness is going to ruin his life, and Dad's forgetfulness will ruin our marriage. She said the game show is the perfect chance to fix both. I do. The hallway leading to the operating theater was not white. It was a pale, sickly green, the color of old bruising. Lily Smith walked it like a prisoner on death row. A nurse gripped her elbow, not for support, but with a firmness that suggested she might try to run. Beside them, The hospital administrator walked in silence, clutching the clipboard that bore Chloe's signature, the final, legal decree of a 16-year-old girl who had died angry. "You don't have to do this, Mrs. Smith," the administrator said, though his voice lacked any warmth. "We can record it. You can view the footage later."
No, Lily whispered.
Her voice was a rasp, stripped of its professorial cadence. She set the variables. I have to solve the equation. Even now, her mind retreated to the safety of math. Math made sense. In math, if you made a mistake, you erased it. You recalculated. You didn't stand in a sterile corridor smelling of antiseptic and impending mutilation while your husband and son sat in a waiting room, refusing to look at you. They reached the double doors. Or 3. Inside, the air was frigid. The centerpiece of the room was the table, and on the table was a mound of blue drapes. Only a small square of skin was visible, illuminated by the harsh halo of the surgical lights. "Stand here," the lead surgeon said. He didn't look at her. He was a man who saved lives for a living, and he knew exactly why the girl on the table had died. His disgust radiated off him like heat. "Do not cross the red line on the floor.
Do not speak.
Do not interfere." Lily nodded. Her hands were trembling so violently she had to clasp them behind her back, mimicking the posture she used when lecturing a hall of 300 students. The lesson. That's what Chloe wanted. The anesthesiologist signaled. There was no beep of a heart monitor. That had ended an hour ago. There was only the hiss of the ventilator keeping the organs oxygenated, a mechanical ghost breathing for a girl who was already gone. "Incision," the surgeon murmured. Lily watched. She forced her eyes to stay open. She watched the scalpel part the skin of her daughter's chest, the chest she had rubbed with Vicks VapoRub when Chloe had bronchitis at 5. The chest she had poked a finger into just yesterday, telling her to toughen up. The ribs were cracked open with a retractor. The sound was wet and sharp, like a branch snapping in a storm. Lily's stomach lurched, acid rising in her throat, but she swallowed it down. 1 + 1 is equal to 2. This is biology. Biology is just applied chemistry. Chemistry is just applied physics. Physics is just applied math. It's just math. It's just matter. But it wasn't matter. It was Chloe. She saw the lungs, pink and gray, inflating rhythmically. She saw the heart. It was still beating, artificially stimulated, pumping blood through a body that had no soul left to inhabit it. "Heart is viable," the surgeon said. "Recipient team is en route from St. Jude's." Lily stared at the heart. That was the malignant tumor's home. But the heart itself was strong. It was the system around it that had failed. "I am the system," she thought. "I am the failure." "Removal beginning," the surgeon announced. He reached in. His gloved hands disappeared into Chloe's chest cavity. Lily saw the moment the connection was severed. The flow of blood stopped. The heart was lifted out, placed into a silver basin. It looked like a piece of meat at a butcher shop. And in that moment, the barrier in Lily's mind, the wall of logic and equations and lessons, shattered. She didn't scream. Screaming would have been a release. Instead, she made a sound that was low and guttural, the sound of an animal caught in a trap that realizes chewing off its own leg won't save it. She slumped against the tiled wall, sliding down until her blazer, with the PhD pin still attached, hit the cold floor. "She's empty," Lily whispered to the linoleum. "I made her empty." The surgeon didn't look up. He was busy packing the heart into ice. The lesson was complete. The drive home was silent.
Sandro.
Carson sat in the back. Lily sat in the passenger seat. No one spoke. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, pressurized, like the air before a tornado touches down. When they pulled into the driveway of their suburban 2-story home, the lawn was covered in media vans. Satellite dishes pointed at their front door like mortars. As the headlights swept across the crowd, flashes went off, hundreds of them, a strobe light of judgment. "Drive through them," Sean said.
His voice was dead.
"Sean, the reporters." Lily started, instinctively reaching to check her hair. "I said drive through them." Sean slammed his hand on the steering wheel, the first display of violence she had ever seen from the gentle man who delivered pizzas to support her academic ego. They pushed through the crowd. Shouts penetrated the glass. "Murder? Why did you lie?" How much was her life worth? Inside, the house was exactly as they had left it that morning. There was a half-eaten bagel on the counter. Chloe's sneakers were kicked off by the door. Carson walked straight to the kitchen. He grabbed a trash bag. "Carson?" Lily asked, standing in the foyer, clutching her purse. He walked past her, went into the living room, and began sweeping things into the bag. Not trash. Her things. The framed photo of Lily receiving her tenure. The trophy from the state math Olympiad. The world's smartest mom mug. "Carson, stop," Lily pleaded, her voice shaking. "What are you doing?" "I'm cleaning up," he said. He didn't look at her. He swept a stack of her research papers off the dining table into the bag. Those are my proofs. That's the Riemann hypothesis work. It's garbage, Carson spat. It's all garbage. He tied the bag off and walked to the front door. He opened it, facing the wall of cameras and shouting reporters. He heaved the bag onto the front lawn. Take it. Carson screamed at the press. You want a story? Take her awards. Take her genius. It's all for sale. He slammed the door and locked it. When he turned back, his eyes were dry and terrifying. I'm leaving, he said. You have finals next week, Lily stammered. You can't just leave. You still don't get it. Carson laughed, a hollow, barking sound. I'm not going back to school. I'm not doing anything you ever told me to do again. I'm going to stay at Mark's house tonight. Tomorrow I'm gone. Carson, please. We need to grieve as a family. We aren't a family, he said, walking past her. We are a case study. He left through the back door. Lily turned to Sean. He was standing by the mantel, looking at the empty spot where a family portrait used to be.
San?
He turned slowly. He looked 20 years older than he had that morning. The money is still in the car, Lily. I can put it in the safe. We can use it for the funeral. We can start a foundation. Burn it, Sean said softly. What? Burn it. Or bury it. I don't care. But if you bring $1 of that money into this house, I will torch this place with us inside. He walked to the stairs. I'm sleeping in Chloe's room tonight. Don't come in. Don't knock. If I hear your voice, I might do something that will send me to prison. Lily stood alone in the dark kitchen. The digital clock on the microwave blinked. 12 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 12 o'clock. She hadn't set the time. A variable she forgot to fix. The funeral was 3 days later. The GoFundMe had paid for everything: a mahogany casket, a plot under an oak tree, a mountain of white lilies. Lily wasn't invited. She found out the time and location from a news report on the TV she hadn't turned off in 72 hours. The funeral for Chloe Smith will be held at St. Mark's Cathedral at 10:00 a.m. She dressed in black. She put on her makeup, hiding the dark circles that looked like bruises. She drove her own car, parking 2 blocks away to avoid the press barricade. She walked to the church. The doors were closed, guarded by 2 large men in suits. Private security. Ma'am, one of them said, stepping in her path. We have strict instructions. I am her mother, Lily said, drawing herself up to her full height. I gave birth to her. You cannot keep me from burying my child. Mr. Sean Smith has a restraining order pending, ma'am. If you step on the property, we call the police. Lily stood on the sidewalk. People were filing in. She saw Chloe's friends, girls with tear-streaked faces holding each other. She saw neighbors who used to wave to her. They all looked at the ground as they passed her. No one met her eyes. She was a ghost. She was less than a ghost. She was a glitch in the reality of the town. Then, the doors opened for the pallbearers. Sean was at the front right. Carson was at the front left. They carried the casket out toward the hearse. Lily lunged forward.
San. Carson.
Let me see her. Please. The security guard grabbed her arm. Ma'am, stay back. That's my baby, Lily screamed, the composure finally snapping. I did it for us. I did it for the bonus. I thought we had time. I calculated the time. Sean stopped. The procession halted. He turned his head. He didn't shout. He didn't look angry. He looked at her with a profound, crushing pity. You calculated the time, Sean said, his voice carrying over the silent crowd. But you forgot the variable of love, Lily. You solved for X, but you lost the Y. He turned back to the hearse. The casket slid in.
The doors closed.
Lily fell to her knees on the concrete. The press cameras clicked furiously, capturing the image that would define the rest of her life. The math genius, alone on the pavement, reaching out toward a black car driving away. 6 months later, the house was sold. Sean had moved to a small apartment in the city. He worked at a bookstore now, stacking shelves in silence. He never gave interviews. Carson dropped out of college. He joined the Peace Corps, disappearing into a village in rural Guatemala where no one had TVs and no one knew his last name. He sent postcards to Sean. He sent nothing to Lily. Lily lived in a motel on the outskirts of the county. The university had fired her within a week of the death. Moral turpitude was the clause in her tenure contract. She sat at a small, wobbly table in the motel room. The walls were thin. She could hear the couple next door arguing about rent money. The black duffel bag sat on the bed. It was still full. She hadn't spent a dime. She had tried to donate it. The Children's Hospital returned the check. We cannot accept funds associated with criminal negligence investigations, the letter said. She had tried to give it to a heart disease charity. They declined publicly, issuing a press release stating they didn't want blood money. The money was radioactive. It was useless paper. Lily picked up a pen. She had a notebook in front of her. It was filled with scribbles. Let T be the time remaining. Let M be the money needed. Let E be the ego of the subject. Equation. M plus bonus, / T equals life. She scratched it out.
Wrong. Wrong.
She turned the page. Chloe's temperature at 8 a.m., 98.6. Chloe's temperature at 4 p.m., 96.0. Rate of cooling. She scratched that out too, the pen tearing through the paper. She stood up and paced the small room. She had the money. She had the knowledge. She was the smartest woman in the room. And she had absolutely nothing. There was a knock at the door. Lily froze. No one visited. She opened it a crack. It was a young girl, maybe 19. She looked like a student. She held a microphone, but she wasn't news. She was a YouTuber, a true crime vlogger. Hi, the girl said, shoving a camera lens into the crack of the door. Are you Lily Smith? The game show mom? Lily stared at her. Go away. I just have one question, the girl pressed. My followers want to know. When you answered 1 + 1 is equal to 3, did you know? Did you know she was dying right then? Or did you just not care? Lily looked at the girl. She looked at the red recording light. I didn't answer 3, Lily said softly.
What?
I answered 3 because I was thinking 3 steps ahead, Lily said, her eyes widening, manic energy returning. I was thinking about the tax implications of the lump sum versus the annuity. I was thinking about the interest rates on the unpaid mortgage. I was calculating the future value of the money to ensure Carson's tuition was covered for a master's degree. Yeah, but your daughter died, the girl said flatly. That was a statistical anomaly, Lily shouted, pushing the door open. The probability of sudden cardiac arrest in that specific 2-hour window was less than 0.04%. It was a rounding error. The doctors were the variable I couldn't control. The girl stepped back, looking disturbed. Lady, you're crazy. You killed her for a bonus. I am a mathematician, Lily screamed, slamming the door. She leaned against the wood, breathing hard. 0.04%. She walked back to the table. She opened the duffel bag. She took out a stack of hundreds. She went to the bathroom sink. She plugged the drain. She turned on the water. She began tearing the bills, ripping them into confetti, dropping them into the water. She watched the green paper turn into a soggy pulp. Money is a medium of exchange, she recited. If there is no exchange, there is no value. She tore through the first bundle, then the second. By dawn, the bag was empty. The bathroom floor was covered in wet, green slush. $3 million, destroyed by hand. Lily sat in the center of the mess, her hands stained with ink. She picked up her phone. She dialed Carson's old number, knowing it was disconnected. Hello, she said to the automated operator. This is Mom. I just wanted to tell you. I solved it. She looked at the wet pulp. The answer is 0. Years passed. The story of the game show mom faded, replaced by newer tragedies, newer viral villains. In a small cemetery, the grass had grown thick over Chloe's grave. The headstone was simple. Chloe Smith, beloved daughter and sister. She taught us to love. A woman sat on the bench opposite the grave. She was old now, her hair completely gray, unkempt. She wore a coat that was too big for her, pinned with a rusted button that used to say PhD. She came every day. She never approached the stone. She respected the boundary, the red line from the operating room. She sat on the bench and she graded papers. Not real papers. She fished them out of the recycling bins at the local high school. Discarded homework. She would take a red pen and circle the mistakes. -5 points. Show your work. -10 points. Careless error. A young man walked up the path. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a weathered face. He held a bouquet of sunflowers. It was Carson. He had returned. He stopped at the grave. He knelt down and placed the flowers. He touched the stone, closing his eyes. The old woman on the bench stopped writing. Her hand hovered over the paper. She didn't look up. She felt his presence like a change in atmospheric pressure. Carson stood up. He turned. He looked at the woman on the bench. He hesitated. The anger was gone, eroded by time and the vastness of the world he had seen. All that was left was a dull ache. He walked over to the bench. Lily stared at her shoes. They were worn through at the toes. Your logic was sound, Carson said quietly. Lily's head snapped up. Her eyes were watery, confused.
What?
On the show, Carson said. Statistically.
You were right.
The odds were in your favor. If life was a math problem, you would have won. Lily's lips trembled. I carried the one. I always carried the one. But life isn't a math problem, Mom, Carson said. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a photo. It was a picture of him, a wife, and a baby girl. It's a story. And you wrote a terrible ending. He placed the photo on the bench beside her. Her name is Chloe, Carson said. She loves math. She's really good at it. Lily reached for the photo, her fingers shaking. She touched the face of the baby. I won't let her meet you, Carson said, his voice firm but not cruel. Not ever. But I thought you should know. The variable continues. He turned and walked away, down the gravel path, out of the cemetery. Lily sat alone. The wind blew the leaves across the grass. She looked at the photo. Then she looked at the discarded homework on her lap. It was a worksheet on Basic Addition. 1 + 1 = _____. The student had written 3. Lily picked up her red pen. Usually she would cross it out. She would write wrong in big letters. But her hand froze. She looked at Chloe's grave. She looked at the picture of the grandchild she would never hold. 1 + 1 = 3. Mother plus father equals child. Love plus loss equals grief. Mistake plus regret equals eternity. Maybe the student was right. In the messy, undefined, chaotic world of human beings, sometimes 1 + 1 did equal 3. Lily capped the pen. She didn't correct the paper. She placed the photo in her pocket, close to her heart, and for the first time in 10 years, she closed her eyes and didn't count the seconds. She just let them pass.